The restaurant shimmered with quiet wealth, candlelight trembling against crystal glasses, the soft hum of a piano weaving through polite laughter. It was the kind of place where nothing bad was supposed to happen. Yet across that perfect table Laura felt it, the unease beneath her brother's smile, the weight of a secret waiting to detonate. She did not know it yet, but before dessert was served, her family would applaud a crime, and her life, calm, careful, hidden, would shatter in a single word. The restaurant smelled like butter, oak and performance. The kind of place where the room was dim on purpose, where the ceiling lights were gold but not warm, and every table carried a candle as if money itself required mood lighting. You could smell seared fat and melted truffle in the air, and the kind of red wine that had a name instead of a price. Somewhere in the background, a piano was playing something soft and slow, the way rich people imagine safety. It was not the kind of place my family went to. It was the kind of place my brother chose when he wanted to be watched. Ethan was already there when I walked in. He was sitting at the head of the table like a host, or a candidate, or a man receiving recognition, not a man having dinner with his family on a Friday night. He wore a dark suit that was just slightly too sharp for him. The lapels were new. The watch was new. The smile was practiced. Our parents sat on either side of him, turned toward him like flowers turned toward light. They looked happy. That was the first warning. "Laura," my mother called softly, as if we were in church. "Over here." I took my seat at the far end of the table. The server pulled out my chair for me and set a folded napkin in my lap with both hands like a ceremony. Ethan did not look up right away. He let me sit. He let the moment stretch. Then he lifted his eyes and smiled the way a man smiles when a photographer is present. "There she is," he said. "Ah, careful one. You made it. Careful one." He always said it like that. Like careful was a flaw. "I said I would," I answered. "You did," my father said, nodding as if I had accomplished something difficult. "And on time too." That made them all laugh. I ordered water. My mother clicked her tongue and told the server, "She will have wine." She did not ask me. She ordered a bottle I did not recognize. The price was not listed on the menu, which meant I did not want to know it. "Tonight is special," my mother said. "Your brother is taking us out." That was the second warning. Ethan never paid for dinner. He was the kind of man who said he would get the next one, and then never saw you again until you forgot. He was the kind of man who could turn forgetting into charm. But tonight, he leaned back in his chair like a benefactor and spread one hand toward the menus. "Order anything you want," he said. "Please do not hold back. We are celebrating." The way he said "we" as if "we" meant him. My father cleared his throat. He does this when he is proud, and does not know how to say it without sounding impressed by his own son. "Your brother just closed a major deal," he said. "Commercial properties, all cash. His biggest one yet." "All because of family," Ethan added modestly. "That is the main thing. This is family effort." He looked at me when he said it. He held my eyes for a second too long. That was the third warning. The server began describing the cuts of steak and where the cattle had lived, as if the cows also had last names. I let the sounds wash past me. My eyes stayed on Ethan. He was glowing, not happy, performed. People think they can hide performance, but they cannot. It gets into their shoulders and jaw. It sits in the way they rest their hands. Tonight, Ethan held his body too high. He laughed too quickly. He kept smoothing the front of his jacket like he wanted us to keep noticing it. He was not relaxed. He was displaying. My mother reached for Ethan's arm. "You should be proud of him, Laura," she said gently. "He is out there making things happen." I smiled. That is something I am good at. I have learned how to make a smile that keeps the room quiet. I have learned how to look agreeable when I am not. "I am proud," I said. Ethan laughed. "You hear that?" That almost sounded sincere. My father chuckled. The server poured wine. My mother lifted her glass. "To Ethan," she said. "To his work, to his future, to his vision." We all lifted our glasses except me. I kept my hands folded around the base of my water glass under the table. No one noticed. That is something else I am good at. I know how to be present without being seen. Ethan took a long sip and sighed with pleasure. He set his glass down and leaned toward me, elbows on the table. "So," he said, "how is your place?" He meant my apartment. It is fine, I said. Still the same one? My mother asked. Her tone was light, but I could hear the effort in it. The little one over the bakery? Yes, my father made a quiet, thoughtful sound. And you are still driving the same car, right? That old sedan? Yes. My mother smiled the way mothers smile before they begin to worry out loud. Honey, you are 36 years old. You work all the time. You do not travel. You do not go anywhere. You do not even buy yourself a decent car. At some point you have to start living. Across the table, Ethan was watching me, amused, still saving every penny like a squirrel, he said. Something in my chest tightened, but my face did not move. Sometimes silence is easier than defending your life choices. It is fine to be cautious, my mother said quickly, as if to soften it. We know you like to be careful. That is your way. You have always been like that. Even as a child. You always thought ahead. You always held back. My father nodded. Meanwhile, some people in this family, he said, glancing toward Ethan, take bigger swings. Ethan lifted both hands in a show of humility. What can I say? He replied easily. I am built for risk. That made my mother laugh. I watched him. I watched how pleased he was with himself. I watched how he enjoyed that line. Built for risk. It sounded like something he had practiced in the mirror. The first plates arrived. The steaks were thick and glossy, marbled like stone. Butter pooled at the edges and ran in slow lines. My mother had ordered sea bass. My father had ordered filet mignon. Ethan had ordered the bone-in ribeye, rare. I asked for chicken, the least expensive entree on the menu. Ethan let out a soft, disbelieving breath. Chicken, he said. In this place. It looks good, I answered. Ethan shook his head with theatrical sadness. Laura, one day you will allow yourself to live. My mother touched my wrist. He is only teasing. He was not. Under the table, my hands were tight enough that my knuckles hurt. I loosened them on purpose. People imagine anger as heat. Mine is cold. It is organized. It knows how to wait. I lifted my eyes and met his, and for a moment we simply looked at one another across the flowers and the candle and our parents' pride. There was a time when he used to look at me like a brother. That time was not tonight. Why are we celebrating? I asked. My mother smiled at Ethan. Tell her. Not yet, Ethan said. His tone changed. It grew soft, almost affectionate. He leaned back in his chair, one arm along the top, claiming the space. He was enjoying the suspense. He was feeding on it. It is important, he said, and I want to do it right. My father nodded. Listen to your brother. He has a plan. Plan. That was the fourth warning. The piano in the corner shifted to something slower. The room hummed around us, low and expensive. Glassware chimed. Laughter rose and fell like soft waves. Somewhere behind me, a server whispered, Yes, sir, and moved quickly. Ethan kept watching me instead of his food. Tonight is special, Laura, he said quietly, almost tender, like a promise. You are going to love this. His smile stayed on his face a second too long. It was confident, but it was also hungry. In that moment I felt something I could not yet name. Not fear, not anger, something colder. The sense of a room locking from the inside. I folded my napkin, placed it carefully beside my plate, and sat a little straighter. I should have known then. Celebrations are not always about what you think you are being given. Sometimes they are about what has already been taken. The moment began quietly. No raised voices. No accusation. No collapse. Just Ethan clearing his throat like a man about to make a toast to himself. He set down his fork with ceremony. He wiped his mouth with a very white napkin, folded it once, placed it to the left of his plate with deliberate care. Then he leaned back and looked at each of us as if he were standing under a spotlight. This feels good, he said softly. It feels right, doing this with everyone here. My mother smiled in anticipation. My father straightened in his chair. Uncle Rick leaned in, all attention. The air felt heavier than it had a moment before. I did not know why yet, but my body knew before my mind did. My shoulders lifted. My fingers tightened against the underside of the table. Ethan slipped his hand inside his jacket. For one strange second, a wish flickered through me. A childish wish. Maybe he was going to hand me a check. Maybe after years of condescension and jokes at my expense, he would finally acknowledge me with something kind. Something private. Something that did not come with a lesson about how I should be living. He pulled out a folded sheet of paper, not a card. Not a check, a printout. My stomach went cold. "Laura," he said, and his voice took on an imitation of tenderness. "I could not wait to tell you this." He unfolded the paper, smoothed it flat with his palm, and angled it toward our parents first, not me. "Do you see this number?" he asked. I watched both of their faces. First confusion, then widening eyes. My mother let out a small sound between a gasp and a laugh. "Oh, Ethan," she whispered. "Oh, my goodness." My father gave a low whistle of approval. "My son," he said quietly. "My son," Uncle Rick nodded, pleased. "Now that," he said under his breath, "is how a man moves." Only then did Ethan turn the paper toward me. "Surprise," he said, with a smile bright enough to hurt. I looked down. The world narrowed to numbers and text. The restaurant softened, unfocused, like a painting seen through glass. For a heartbeat, I could not hear the piano. I could not hear my own breathing. Account number, mine. Receiving account. Bennett Commercial Holdings, LLC, amount transferred. 23/02/544 to 18 date. 3 separate entries. 3 consecutive days. Authorization. Completed. For a moment, I did not move. Then I felt something drop inside me. Like the floor of an elevator giving way. I heard the sound of metal against porcelain. It took me a second to understand it was my own fork, slipping from my hand and landing against the plate. Too loud, too sharp. The server at the next table glanced over. "Ethan," I said very softly. "What is this?" He laughed, delighted with himself. He leaned in, elbows on the table, voice lowered as if what he was saying was intimate and generous instead of violent. "I did it," he said. "For you. For us." "For us," my mother echoed, glowing. I kept looking at the paper because looking at his face was suddenly unbearable. "I took your money," Ethan said proudly, "and I put it to work." The words were so wrong that, for a moment, they did not make sense. "I'm sorry," I asked. Ethan beamed. "You had $2.3 million just sitting there, doing nothing. Earning basically nothing. That is not smart, Laura, that is fear. That is what fear looks like in numbers. So I stepped in. My throat felt tight. You moved my money," I said. "I invested your money," he corrected, lifting a finger as if we were in a classroom and I had made a small mistake. "There is a difference," my father nodded. "Listen to him. He knows what he's doing." Ethan tapped the paper with the back of his knuckle. "This is the down payment on a commercial portfolio in the Pearl District. 3 buildings. Prime development corridor. 15 to 20% projected return annually once leases stabilize, maybe more. We are talking generational income. We." I lifted my eyes and met his. "We," I repeated. Ethan smiled like a man explaining kindness to a stubborn child. "Yes, we, you and me, partners. I take 60% because I sourced the deal, negotiated it, and will manage the build-out. You keep 40 for doing nothing. Imagine that. You are finally part of something real." My mother made a sound of pure happiness. "Laura," she whispered, "your brother took care of you." "He just changed your life," my father said. I could feel the heat rising in my face, but I could also feel something else, something colder and sharper, sliding into place along my spine. "How?" I asked. And my voice had gone quiet, too quiet. "Did you access my account?" Ethan leaned back. Pleased with this part of the story. "Do you remember Christmas 3 years ago?" he asked. "You were at the house paying bills at the kitchen table. You used Mum's laptop because yours was in the car. You logged into your bank, and you saved the password. Do you remember that?" I did not answer. He smiled wider. "I found it last month while I was fixing Dad's email. Call it good timing. Call it fate." My mother laughed softly. "I told you," she said to me as if she were offering comfort. "He always looks out for you." The candlelight shook in front of me. No one else noticed. My hands were shaking. I folded them together in my lap so I could make them still by force. "You went into my account," I said. "I managed your assets," Ethan replied. You moved my money without asking, I said. I made an executive decision, Ethan replied. You tell yourself not to cry. You tell yourself to hold the line, to stay calm, to stay above it. Because if you break in front of them, they will call it proof. Proof that you are ungrateful. Proof that you are hysterical. Proof that you never understood business in the first place. I felt my eyes fill anyway. I dropped my gaze to the table so they would not see it. Uncle Rick leaned in. Laura, he said, his voice gentle with the kind of patience men reserve for women they think are being emotional. This is how family works. We help each other. We take care of each other. Money sitting in a bank does nothing for anybody. This way it grows. This way it feeds everybody. Everybody but me. It was not your decision to make, I said. My voice was almost a whisper now. Ethan's smile thinned. It was absolutely my decision to make, he said, because you were never going to make it. You are too cautious. You are frozen in place. You are wasting your life being afraid of living it. I am fixing that. Someone in this family has to think long term. He sounded offended. He sounded like a man whose generosity had not been properly thanked. My mother reached for my hand. Sweetheart, she said softly. He did this for you. Something inside me went very, very still. I lifted my head. Where, I asked, is the money now? Ethan brightened again. Escrow, the transfer's cleared this morning. The down payment is placed. We close next week. After that, it is all upward. You should be grateful, Laura. Most people never get a chance like this. My heartbeat had become a slow, heavy drum. I reached for my phone. 3 notifications waited for me. All recent. All within the last 10 minutes. The first message, transfer detected. Tracking initiated. Stand by. The second, target account flagged. Funds frozen. The third, field team inbound. Maintain position. I felt rather than saw the moment something in my face changed. My mother's smile faltered. My father frowned. Ethan watched me, amused at first, then curious. What is that? He asked. Are you checking your balance? I set the phone down beside my plate. I looked at Ethan for a long time. When I finally spoke, my voice was calm. Too calm. That account, I said, was not my savings account. Ethan laughed. Laura, please. It was not my money, I said. He stopped laughing. What are you talking about? He asked. It is in my name, I said. But it is not mine. It is evidence. It is held under federal custody. Every dollar in that account is tagged and traced. My mother blinked in confusion. I do not understand. Ethan shook his head and leaned back, waving a hand. No, you are not doing this. You are not turning this into some dramatic moral speech to make me feel bad about helping you. I did not look away. You did not steal from me, I said. The table had become very quiet. You stole from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. For a heartbeat. No one moved. My father let out a short, nervous laugh. All right, he said. Very funny. I did not answer. Ethan stared at me as if I had spoken a language he did not know. Laura, he said slowly, almost kindly, stop. You do not have to make this ugly. We can structure this any way you want. You will get monthly statements. I will keep you updated on returns. You are safe. I exhaled through my nose. My hands were shaking again. I heard it before I saw it. The restaurant doors opened. The soft piano did not stop, but the air shifted. 4 figures entered the dining room. Dark jackets, calm faces, purpose in their steps, not speed. Authority that did not need to shout to be heard. Agent Dana Ross reached the table first. Her badge was already in her hand. Her voice was low. Laura, she said. Confirm the subject. My mouth had gone dry. For a moment I could not speak. This was the moment I had always told myself I was prepared for. The moment where duty would feel clean and solid and correct. It did not feel clean. It felt like standing on the edge of a lake in winter and choosing to step down through the ice yourself. My throat tightened. My vision stung. I swallowed hard and forced my voice to come. Yes, I said, and I heard the break in it. That is him. Ethan Bennett! Ethan turned toward me in disbelief. Just as Agent Ross reached for his wrist, handcuffs clicked. The sound was louder than the piano. The dining room shattered. Not in noise, not in violence, but in the way a quiet room can split open on the inside. The piano kept playing. The candles kept burning. The other guests pretended they were not watching and failed. But at our table, something broke and would never be repaired. "Ma'am," Agent Ross said evenly to my mother, "please stay seated." My mother did not sit. Carol lurched forward so quickly that her chair scraped hard against the floor. Her hand shot out, catching Ethan's sleeve just before the second cuff locked around his wrist. "Please," she whispered. Her voice had no air in it. "Please, he did not mean it." Her eyes were wide and wet. She was looking at Agent Ross, then at me, then back at Agent Ross like a drowning person choosing which surface might hold. "He did not know," she said. "He was only trying to help his sister. He thought he was helping. You cannot take him for that." Agent Ross did not raise her voice. "Mum," she repeated, "please let go of him." Carol shook her head with small, frantic movements. Her hands were shaking so hard that the cuff at Ethan's wrist rattled against the fabric of his jacket. "He is my son," she said. "He is my son." Ethan was pale. He had stopped smiling. His mouth was open, but nothing came out yet. The confidence, the showmanship, the performance that had filled him moments ago had drained away, and what was left was a man searching the room for an exit that did not exist. My father did not reach for Ethan. My father turned on me. The change in his face was instant and violent. His jaw set. His cheeks flushed. His eyes hardened in a way I had not seen since childhood. "Laura," Thomas said. His voice was low at first, but it shook with pressure, and there was steel behind it. "What have you done?" I did not answer. He slammed his palm down on the table. Glasses jumped. My untouched plate jolted and slid. "What have you done?" he said again, louder now. "You called them on your own brother." Every head in the restaurant turned. Ethan found his voice. "Laura," he said, almost laughing, almost crying. "Tell them. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. Tell them you asked me to move the money. Tell them you gave me permission. Tell them I am part of your work. Tell them something." I felt cold all over, like someone had poured ice water from the top of my spine down to the base of my back. "I did not call them," I said. My voice was soft. I kept it soft, because that was the only way I could keep it from shaking. The room leaned toward me without meaning to. "I did not have to," I said. "The system did." For a moment, no one spoke. Justice does not wait for permission. Agent Ross nodded once, as if that was all she needed to hear, and began to read Ethan his rights in a calm, practiced tone. Her voice was firm, unemotional. She said the words clearly, not unkindly. It was almost gentle. That gentleness shattered my mother. "No," Carol cried, her voice cracking open. "No, please, please, please. He is a good man. He is a good man. He would never hurt his sister. He is not a criminal. He is trying to build something for this family. Please do not talk to him like that." One of the other agents placed a hand on her shoulder and guided her gently, firmly, back into her chair. She let herself be pushed down, but her body leaned forward at the waist, as if she could still reach Ethan if she just wanted it enough. Ethan twisted toward me as they pulled him away from the table. His eyes were wide and furious and pleading all at once. "Laura," he said. "Laura, say something." I met his gaze. There are moments in a life that do not arrive with warning. There are decisions that do not feel like decisions until you hear yourself speak them out loud and realize who you are now. I swallowed. "My throat hurt. You took money that was not yours," I said. My father made a sharp sound like a hiss. Ethan shook his head over and over. "I did it for you," he said. "I did it for you. For us, for this family. You owe me." The words struck the table like thrown glass. "You owe me." I felt something inside me flinch. Then the moment was over. The agents moved. Ethan was turned, guided, walked. The cuffs flashed once, catching candlelight like a piece of winter sun. The other diners watched, their faces half hidden behind raised hands and wine glasses. The room had fallen into a silence so deep you could hear the scrape of polished shoes against hardwood. And then he was gone. The door closed. The restaurant exhaled. All at once in whispers, for a long heartbeat. No one at our table moved. Then my mother folded in on herself and began to sob into her hands. My father stared at me as if he did not recognize me. "What did you do?" he whispered. I wanted to answer. I wanted to explain. I wanted to find a version of the truth that would make any of this survivable. But there was no version of the truth that would be accepted in this room. So I did not say anything. I reached into my purse. I took out my card. When the waiter, pale and shaking, drifted toward us with the folded leather check presenter, my father lifted his hand as if to stop him. "Ethan was paying," he muttered, dazed. I handed the card to the waiter. "It is fine," I said quietly. "I have it." My father let out a disbelieving laugh, almost a bark. "You have it," he repeated. "You think money fixes this?" "No," I said. "I do not think anything fixes this." The total was $847.63. I signed. I tipped well. My hand did not shake until I put the pen down. Then I stood. My mother did not look at me. She was still crying, shoulders heaving, her hands pressed to her mouth like she was trying to hold something in. My father's eyes were hard and wet. Uncle Rick looked at me with something like disgust, but behind it I saw something else. I saw fear. I picked up my coat. I did not put it on. I just carried it in my arms like a shield, and I walked out. The night air hit me like cold water. For a moment I could not breathe. I crossed the parking lot in a straight line, not looking at the people by the valet stand who had just watched a federal arrest over creme brulee. My vision was too bright at the edges, like I had stood up too fast. My heart felt wrong in my chest, too slow and too loud at the same time. When I reached my car, I opened the door, sat down in the driver's seat, and shut the door behind me. The silence was immediate and absolute. No piano, no voices, no pleading, just the soft thud of my own pulse in my ears. I put both hands on the steering wheel and held on, for a long time I did not move. I did not start the car. I did not even lean back. I sat there, spine stiff, shoulders shaking, gripping the wheel as if the car were the only solid thing left in the world. "He is still my brother," I whispered. The words came out broken. That was the part I had not prepared for. I had prepared for policy. I had prepared for procedure. I had prepared for evidence and documentation and consequences. I had not prepared for the sound of my own voice, saying he is still my brother, after giving his name to the agent who cuffed him. A tear slid down my cheek. Another followed. Let them fall, I did not wipe them away. There was no one here to see me, and no one left here to protect. I took one long, unsteady breath. Then another, deeper. I pressed my forehead gently to the cool curve of the steering wheel and let the air leave my lungs in a slow, shaking exhale. "You have to get up," I told myself. "You cannot fall apart here." After a while, I did. When I walked into the bureau that night, the light felt different. Fluorescent, steady, clean. The kind of light that does not move, does not flicker, does not dim around the edges to flatter anyone. The opposite of that restaurant. Agent Dana Ross was waiting for me in a small interview room. She did not sit behind the table. She sat beside it, leaving the chair across from her empty. That, in its own way, was an act of mercy. "Are you all right?" she asked. I let out a quiet, humourless breath. "No," I said. "Not really," she nodded. She did not tell me to be strong. She did not tell me I had done the right thing. She did not tell me that this was part of the job, and that I knew what I was signing up for. She simply nodded like a witness. "We will need your written statement while everything is fresh," she said gently. "What he said to you. What he admitted. How he described accessing your credentials. We will build the report around that." I closed my eyes for a moment. "I know," I said softly. "I know what we need," her voice lowered. "You did your job tonight." I shook my head. "No," I said. "I did not do my job. I lost my family in public." She did not answer right away. After a moment, she rested a hand on my shoulder. It was a simple touch, professional, human. Some truths cost everything. When I finally left the building and drove home, the city felt unfamiliar, like I had moved to a place that looked like Portland, but was not Portland anymore. My apartment was dark when I walked in. I did not turn on the overhead light. I let the glow from the street and the hallway spill in through the blinds, and paint long pale bars across the floor. Phone began to vibrate before I had even taken off my shoes. Missed. Call, missed call, missed call, voice message, voice message. 27 in total. I stood in the doorway and listened to them one by one. My mother first. Her voice was hoarse from crying. "How could you?" she whispered. "How could you do this to him? He would have given his life for you. We raised you better than this, Laura. We raised you to protect family." Then my father, no softness in his tone, only something cold and stunned and final. "You are not my daughter anymore," he said. Then Uncle Rick, "You think the Bureau will love you when you are old. You think this badge will hold your hand when you are sick. You will die alone." I stood there, in the dark, and held the phone in my hand. The messages ended. The apartment was silent again. I did not cry. Not this time. Something inside me had already burned through the last of its softness and set into something clear. Integrity does not need applause. I placed the phone face down on the counter. Then I sat in the quiet, in the thin light coming through the blinds, and I let the night finally be what it was. Not victory, not revenge, cost. The clock in my office ticked softly, each second sounding like a measured breath in an empty room. Years do not heal everything. They simply teach you what silence can protect. 11 years had passed since that night in the restaurant. 11 years since the sound of handcuffs had split my family in half. I now lived in a quiet suburb outside Washington, D.C., a place of tall oaks and careful lawns, where mornings began with birds instead of arguments. My house was small but filled with light. On the windowsill, green plants reached toward the sun as if they knew nothing of guilt or memory. In the mornings, I still woke early. Old habits of the Bureau never left you. You learned to rise before the noise began. The badge lay on my desk beside a silver nameplate that read, Laura Bennett, Assistant Section Chief, Cybercrime Division. The title still surprised me sometimes. It carried a weight that used to thrill me, then exhaust me, and now simply existed like gravity. Above my desk hung 2 frames. One held my Bureau commendation for exemplary service in the protection of federal integrity and digital justice. The other held a single page from my parents' will, mailed to me years ago by an estate attorney who had found my name buried in old contact records. The clause read, "Our daughter, Laura Bennett, shall receive no portion of this estate, as she has proven herself without loyalty, compassion, or family values." The ink had faded a little. The paper had yellowed, but the words still carried the same clean edge. Sometimes I looked at that frame and felt a quiet ache. Other times I smiled. I had inherited something after all peace. That morning began like many others. I was reviewing a case report when my assistant knocked softly on the door. "Package for you, Mum. Hand-delivered." I looked up. The envelope was plain, heavy, and stamped in red. Federal Correctional Institution, Texas. My heartbeat faltered. It had been years since I had seen his name anywhere. "Thank you," I said, taking it. The door closed and silence filled the room again. I held the envelope for a long moment. My thumb traced the crease where the seal met the paper. The handwriting on the front was familiar. It leaned forward slightly, confident, even graceful. The same handwriting that used to appear on every birthday card and Christmas tag. The same one that had signed the bank documents all those years ago. Ethan Bennett. I stared at the name until the letters blurred. Then finally I opened it. Inside was a single folded sheet of lined paper. The ink had bled in places, as if written too quickly or with too much pressure. The handwriting was smaller than I remembered. Careful now, deliberate. I unfolded it. "Laura, I do not expect you to read this, and I do not expect forgiveness. Prison has a way of shrinking a man until he has no one left to talk to but himself. I have had a long time to think. 11 years is a very long time to sit inside your own mistakes. When I first arrived here, I told myself you had betrayed me. I told anyone who would listen that my sister worked for the Bureau and set me up to make herself look good. I believed it. I needed to believe it because the truth was unbearable. The truth is that I stole from you. Not only your money, but your trust, your peace, and maybe your hope that our family could ever be whole again. You were right about everything. I called what I did investment. I called it help. But it was greed, dressed up in good intentions. I thought I was smarter, more deserving, more alive. I saw you as careful, small, limited. I thought I could save you from yourself, but it turns out I was the one who needed saving. I know you lost everything because of me, our parents, our name, the people who once clapped for me in that restaurant. They turned on you because they could not face what I had done. I heard that they are both gone now. I know they never made peace with you. I am sorry for that too. I cannot give back what I took. But I can say this, you were never weak. You were the strongest person in that room. You did not destroy the family. I did. You did not betray blood. You honoured it by refusing to let it rot. I hope wherever you are that you have found peace. I hope your silence is not loneliness, but the sound of finally being free. If you can, think of me once, not as the man in the cuffs, but as the man who finally understood, your brother, Ethan. The words blurred again as I read the last line. I did not realise that I was crying until a tear fell onto the page, spreading the ink of his name. I folded the letter carefully and sat very still. Outside the window, the morning light had shifted. The shadows of the trees swayed gently against the wall. A bird landed on the railing and began to sing, thin and bright. I thought about the sound of his laughter years ago. I thought about the sound of my father's voice when he said I was no longer his daughter. I thought about my mother's hands trembling on that restaurant table. Time had turned all of it into something distant, like echoes underwater still there, but softened, unreachable. I stood, walked to the filing cabinet in the corner of the room, and opened the drawer marked Closed Cases. I hesitated only once before sliding the letter inside. It rested among old reports, sealed evidence logs, and a single file from 11 years ago labelled Bennett, Ethan, financial fraud, federal evidence theft. I closed the drawer. Some cases stay closed because the truth does not need reopening. As the afternoon light faded, I locked the office and turned off the lamp. The room fell into calm shadow. Before I left, my eyes found the frame on the wall one last time. The words gleamed faintly in the dim light. Integrity is family too, the one you build with your choices. I stood there a moment longer, letting the stillness settle. Then I walked out, closed the door behind me, and let the quiet follow me home. There are moments in life when silence becomes louder than any apology, and distance becomes the only form of love left between two people. Laura learned that truth is not gentle. It does not arrive wrapped in comfort or crowned with approval. It cuts, it severs, it demands. But when the wound finally closes, what remains is something unshakable. Integrity. The years had not made her forget the night that changed everything. They had simply taught her what it meant to live with consequences, and how some losses are not signs of failure but of courage. Because doing the right thing rarely feels heroic when you are in the middle of it. It feels cold. It feels lonely. It feels like standing in a room full of people you love and realising that no one sees you anymore. But perhaps that is where character is born. In the quiet moments after everything collapses, when you have nothing left to prove except the kind of person you choose to remain. Laura's story is not just about betrayal, or justice, or the strange arithmetic of family. It is about the price of self-respect. The truth is that doing what is right does not always win you applause. Sometimes it costs you the people whose approval you crave most. But when the noise fades and the world grows still, you will know. Integrity is the one companion that never leaves. Maybe you have stood in that same silence, the kind that follows after a decision you knew was necessary but unbearable. Maybe you have been called cold for choosing honesty over comfort, or selfish for walking away from something that was destroying you. If you have, then you understand Laura's story better than anyone. You understand that peace is not the absence of pain, but the reward for surviving it without losing your soul. And if you are hearing this now, perhaps it is your reminder. You do not need permission to do what is right. You do not need forgiveness for protecting your boundaries. You simply need the courage to keep choosing truth, even when it costs you love, because one day, when all the noise has faded and only the echo of your own choices remains, you will be able to stand in that silence and say, I did not bend. I did not break. I did what was right. If this story touched something in you, if it reminded you of your own battles, your own moments of quiet courage, share your thoughts below. Tell your story. Let others know they are not alone in choosing integrity over approval. And if you want to hear more stories like this, Stories about strength, redemption, and the human heart. Stay with us. There are more truths waiting to be told.